Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon and or good morning. Welcome to the Network Migration Services webinar on Australia and New Zealand tonight. Well, tonight, my time anyway. Just to introduce myself, to get some formalities out of the way, my name is Andrew Kerr. I'm the owner of Network Migration Services, and I'm also a licensed advisor for New Zealand and Australia. Just a little bit of history on Network, because I just think it helps you. The company's been around, nearly 30 years now. I'm based in South Africa. I'm probably talking to people, hopefully all over the world. We've got about 235 people listening to me at the moment, so welcome to all of you. Tonight is very casual. Please feel free to throw some questions into the chat room. I might answer them during the webinar, or I will certainly go to them after the webinar and answer them as well. But the questions or the webinar is going to cover lots of the stuff that you're probably here to find out about anyway. So we're a relocation and immigration consultancy. We have offices in Durban, in Johannesburg, in New Zealand, and we have satellite team members working all over South Africa as well as Zimbabwe. So we have been in the industry for many, many, many years, and I've personally been involved with immigrating well over 12,000 families. Up to about 5, 6, 7 years ago, we mostly, of course, concentrated on Africa, and frankly, we still do. But with technology, the way it's developed in the past, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, we have clients all over the world, as far away as Northern Europe, America, Sri Lanka, UAE, everywhere. So quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you want assistance or advice, we're happy to give it to you, and that doesn't cost anything. And if you decided to engage our services to assist you with your migration process, it really doesn't matter where you are in the world. We are capable of dealing with you no matter what country you live in and what nationality you are. I just wanted to say a welcome or a thank you to Ruan. Ruan is our marketing manager. He sets up these webinars. I did one 2 weeks ago. We've got one in another 3 weeks. For those of you in South Africa and in the Johannesburg or Gauteng or Pretoria area, there is a expo that is at the Capital on Main or Capital Hotel in Menlyn in Pretoria. It is on Friday and Saturday. If you want to get the details of that, maybe, Ruan, if you are listening to me, well, clearly you are, you might want to just put up the details there or the link that they can book for that. You will be able to arrive. It starts at 10 o'clock in the mornings and finishes at 6 if you're at the Gauteng area. We're not the only ones that will be there, of course. There'll be people there that are doing other countries, especially, I suppose, Canada, although they went there last time, I must admit. But, there'll be moving houses and pet removal companies and whatever. So if you wanted to pop in and have a chat, I believe it's free to pop in. We will be there over the weekend. Won't have a lot of time to talk, long stories with people, because I'm assuming we'll be incredibly busy, because quite frankly, we are incredibly busy, probably busier than I've been ever since that I started this business or joined this business back in 1993. So we are a one-stop shop. We are partnered, as you can see on the first page here, with quite a few service providers. Thank you to Craig and Avundi and the team in Apex, New Zealand. They give all our clients that are immigrating, of course, financial advice on arriving into the country. Mortgages, wills, etc., etc. Pam Golding, well, that speaks for itself. Thank you to Peter Moroney from Pam Golding for always being a great service to our team. Global Wealth, well, that's sort of more an investment arm. For those of you looking to invest overseas, Scott Pickett and his team from Global. FX Paymaster with Evan Brandt and his team helping when it clients shifting funds through the banking systems. They are unbelievably competitive when it comes to their rates. Cars Direct, of course, for those of you immigrating and selling their cars. And, of course, the banks, both in New Zealand and Australia, Commonwealth in Australia and Bank of New Zealand. Thank you to Chris and the team at Pearson's for always being so professional when it comes to dealing with our clients with the English test. Flight Centre and business travel, well, that goes without saying what that is. And thank you to Vaughan and Shirley and the team from Animal Travel Services for always helping our clients with their loved ones and their furry friends. You'll see my registration numbers on the first page there. MARA is the Australian Registration Agency, and IA is the New Zealand Immigration Advice Authority. Just a point, if you're going to be doing this process, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, this process, is stressful. It takes a bit of time sometimes. And quite frankly, especially lately, you've got to get things right. So if you're going to get advice, even if you don't use the agent that you're getting the advice from, please make sure they're licensed. It just protects you as a consumer. We're quite astounded sometimes, myself and my team, at some of the advice that people hear from. Most of the time, it doesn't come from licensed advisors. So thankfully for that. So lots of stuff is put on Facebook and speculations, etc. If you really want the facts, please feel free to ask me questions. Your consultations and your questions are answered for free. But if you're going to use an advisor for even the advice, especially, of course, if you're going to help them, if the advisor is going to help you immigrate, just make sure they're licensed. It protects you. It protects the money you pay them. And it's as simple as that. This is not a cheap exercise immigrating. So if you're going to use an advisor, make sure they know what they're talking about, and please make sure they are licensed. You'll see I'm a member of the New Zealand Association for Migration and Investment as well. And also the Migration Institute of Australia. And they are bodies that, of course, help us with information when it comes to immigration processes. We're up to 250 now. So welcome to those who've checked in a little bit late. We haven't done anything too substantial at the moment. Just to explain, I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes pretty much talking about Australia. New Zealand, we're going to spend a bit of time on, because New Zealand, with all the new rule changes and the new accredited employers work visas that were launched on the 4th of July, I need to just explain a few things when it comes to New Zealand. I'm going to be showing you a few slides. Thank you, Ruan, for putting my email address in there. If you're not already a client, because I know I'll have some clients listening to me tonight, and welcome to you, our current clients. Kishan, everybody's now seeing that. Ruan, would you mind? Kishan's just sent me a Skype, and of course it's popped up on everybody's screen. Would you mind, if you are listening, please just explaining to Kishan maybe he should re-log in, but just the way you always do, please, because he's having trouble logging in. Oh, thank you for scrolling down. Okay. Oh, thank you, Ruan. I didn't even see that down there. Yes, thanks, Ruan. If you wouldn't mind just sending to Kishan. Hey, Charlie, nice to see you again. Thank you, Ruan. And welcome to Liz. I'm not sure if Liz is there. I'm pretty sure she is. Hi, oh, good. Hi, Liz. I didn't see that. Liz is head of our HR, also works in our Belito office at the moment. And welcome to Liz, and thank you for always being so awesome and attending the webinars and helping us with everything that you do for the company, Liz. I'm sitting opposite Desiree. She's about 5 feet away from me. Desiree is one of our senior managers and an outstanding worker, as is her sister, Liz. I've never done a webinar in front of Liz. In front of Desiree. So if I sound a little bit nervous, it's probably because I am. So because she tends to scrutinize me, which is fair enough. But if I do refer to Des, please don't mind. I might ask her a question or two. But, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is finding out what the hell's going on. And, especially with Australia and New Zealand at the moment, and how, not only if you've started this process, how you can achieve the end goal of, becoming residents of either of those countries, or, of course, to start this process. So please, as Ruan has already said, just email me your CVs if you want to find out about the processes. Just email me your CVs, but also give me a little bit of an explanation as to the structure of your family, please, and the ages of your family. It's very important when I'm assessing you that I know how many people are in the family, and I know the ages of not only yourselves, but of your children. And most modern CVs, by the way, don't have ages on them. I don't care what the CV looks like at the moment. It's only coming to me. It's not going to be shared with anybody else bar myself and Liz. So I don't care what it looks like. It doesn't have to look fantastic. But I do need to know your ages. So don't change the CV. Just write a little separate paragraph saying, hi, Andrew, I'm 42. My wife's 38. We've got a, 12-year-old, a 4-year-old, that type of scenario. And it also helps if I know where you live in the world, because then I can know whether I can give you a call. I called a couple of guys in UAE today and Sri Lanka, et cetera, just, because I like the personal touch, as I hope you do. I will answer the questions, Maralise. I'm just going to go into the webinar first, because if I start asking questions now, I'm going to get a little bit jumbled up. But please, I will spend 5 to 10 minutes at the end in half an hour, 40 minutes from now, and I will answer all the questions that you're putting in the chat room, okay? So welcome once to everybody again. Let's sort of move on with a bit of the slideshow. So, right, let's go. I've talked about us. We're there. We're licensed. We've been around for many years, and we've successfully immigrated thousands of people. Australia visa and points I'm going to do now. Then I'm going to do New Zealand, relocation and partners I'll touch on, and, of course, the Q&A at the end. A little bit about us. We've already explained it. That's me a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'm a little bit older now. We're going to touch on Australia now. Vast country. Was very lucky to live in Australia for 10 years before I came to Africa. I've been in Africa 30 years now. But 10 years prior to coming to South Africa, I lived in Australia. I loved it. I lived in Sydney for a while, Brisbane for a while, Melbourne for a while, and Perth. So I'm quite familiar with Australia. It's a fantastic country. It really is. Very diverse, huge in area and space. It's one of the biggest land masses in the world per capita per country. And really diverse cities. I mean, Melbourne is really different than Sydney, which is very different than Brisbane and very different than Perth, etc., etc. There's not a visa that we can't assist you with. Doesn't matter what it is: skilled migrant, student, family, business, work, spousal, investor, etc., etc. There's really not a visa that we're not capable of assisting you with. So if you want any questions on any type of visa that you want to get, please just ask us. And that goes for both countries, Australia and New Zealand. Clearly, I'm blessed to have a team of about 20 odd colleagues that work with me in my company, and they are outstanding at what they do. So I have a huge support structure, so we can certainly handle with the current volume that we're handling. So it's an unprecedented volume. And then when I talk about New Zealand, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's just move on to this slide. Now, just take a screenshot of this slide if you're on your laptop or your PC, please. Or clearly, if you're on your phone or you've got your phone sitting beside you, please take a photo of this. I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. There's 2 pages of this, or 2 slides of this. So just take a shot of this page. One thing I'm going to talk about with Australia is I have no idea, and I mean that, why they haven't opened fully their offshore selection processes. So let me just explain what happened. Australia used to select, a few years ago, they did select applications from offshore, from around the world, every 14 days. Then in their wisdom, they decided to start selecting every month. And then during the COVID crisis at the beginning of a pandemic, not crisis, pandemic, pandemic, however you want to put it. But during the COVID pandemic last January, they decided that they would select quarterly. So up until now, Australia is designated to only select offshore applications on a general skills application, not necessarily state nominations. I'll talk about that in a minute, 4 times a year. Now, I really did believe that they would open the applications for Australia on the last Wednesday of July. It doesn't seem like they did. And why we know that is because we haven't had any of our clients selected. So the next selection is scheduled for the last week in October. I've been wrong about July. I thought they might open in April because, of course, they opened their borders early April. I was definitely wrong about July because I was confident they'd open their general skills application other than state nominations and start selecting from July. They haven't. So I'm speculating whether they'll open in the end of October. I'd like to think they will because, like New Zealand, which is screaming for skills left, right, and centre, so is Australia. So I'm a little bit, clearly disappointed, but I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't just opened for general applications and they put in a selection criteria. Now, just a few things I want to point out from Australia is you'll see your age cutoff on a general skills application is 45 years old. So if you are 45 or over and you're doing a skilled application into Australia, forget it. You won't get selected. Okay. So if you want 45 years or older and you're under the age of 56, you consider New Zealand because New Zealand cutoff age for applications for residency is 56. Okay. So clearly I can be a bit more personal with you as and when you contact me and you give me your CVs, etc. So just realize that for Australia. By the way, I'm not going to do business visas tonight. I'm not going to do spousal. I'm not going to do investor. I'm not going to do, family-related visas, parent, for example. We have all of that information. So if you want that information, just drop me an email and I will be able to send you your pathways to residency based on the specific type of visa you're looking at. And then that brings me to the point, of course, when you send me your details, I will send you, and it's free, it doesn't cost anything, a full rundown of how to gain residency in these countries. That won't cost you anything. And then if you want to have a consultation, they're also free. Zoom, Skype, Teams, Google Meet, whatever, and I consult from Mondays to Saturdays most times. So all those consultations are free. So you'll walk away after the information you get from us knowing exactly what you can and cannot do and what it costs for you to can and cannot do that stuff, okay? Most of you, 99% of you that are doing a skilled migrant application into Australia will require to have a qualification, okay? And there you can see on the right-hand side of this slide your points for having a doctorate, a bachelor's, or a diploma, or a trade, okay? If you don't have a qualification and you're under 45, you can pretty much forget going to Australia. Okay, New Zealand might select you because they work on work experience as well as qualifications, but Australia doesn't. Well, that's not quite true. They do with two assessing authorities, the Australian Institute of Management and the Australian Computer Society may positively assess you if you're not qualified based on, of course, your seniority, your work experience, etc. But I meant what I said earlier, 9 out of 10 of you will need a qualification if you're going to Australia, or 90% of you, so 99 out of 100 of you will. Points for English language are on the left here. You can see 0, 10, and 20, and you might be sitting in Ireland at the moment, or Canada, or America, or the UK saying, hey, I'm exempt. I don't have to sit the English test. Well, that's not true. Well, excuse me, it is true. You are exempt from the English test. However, you don't get points. So you might put in a British passport, which means you're exempt from the English test, but you can't claim those points. So even if you're on those passports, it's highly likely you will still need to sit an English test. So keep that in mind, okay? Points for skilled employment, they're on the bottom right-hand side, and it must be related to your qualification. You cannot claim unrelated work experience, okay? So be careful there, and there are the dates. So for example, let's say that you were a teacher for Australia. No, not that's a bad analogy. Let's say that you were an engineer, but for the last, 10 years, you've been a restaurant manager. Sounds a bit extreme, but if that's the case, then you can't count any of the work experience because clearly it's not related to your qualification. Just take a screenshot of this page as well, please. You can see there, this is just some extra points that you can gain by being sponsored by a state on a 190 or a 491. I'll touch on those in a second. Extra points if you qualified in Australia. Extra points if, of course, you are single. Extra points if you have a qualified spouse and or your spouse sits English, etc. You get sponsorship points here by the states, etc., etc. So when you lodge an application for Australia, 99 times out of 100, well, 100 times out of 100, you're going to need to have a positive skills assessment and have sat the English test. Unless, of course, it's a different type of visa subclass. But as I said, tonight I'm just talking about skilled migrant, okay? So that English test sometimes is required up front. There are over 30 assessing authorities in Australia, and some of them require you to sit your English test and send those your results for your English test with your skills or with your qualifications to them. Like teachers, for example, accountants, those types of stuff are required to sit the relevant tests up front, English tests up front. Some occupations don't require the English test up front, but you're still going to need to sit it anyway. It's valid for 2 years most of the time. And so, if you're going to go to Australia, I would be strongly suggesting get the advice from me, and then I would tell you when to sit the English test, etc. Okay. English, you can set multiple tests depending on, of course, your skill set and depending on your qualification. Now, once your skills assessing authorities are going to require your documentation to check that they're legit, they're from a recognised institution, and you've reached the relevant level required to be selected from the Australian Skills Selection Program, okay, which is literally called Skills Select. And they will, so most assessing authorities in Australia, well, all of them are open now, and they take between, on average, 4 to 12 weeks. So 1 to 3 months for the skills assessment to come back positive. Sometimes that could be longer, especially if you're a tradesman especially if you're a certain occupation. Trades, for example, going to Australia, the skills assessments are taking a little bit longer than that. But frankly, it is what it is. So you've just got to deal with that because you cannot load an application for residency for Australia under skilled migrant applications, 189s, 190s, or 491s. Until you've done the relevant necessary requirements of English language and skills assessments, okay? Now, the 3 visas I'm touching on, a 189, I call it the blue chip visa. Live where you want, do what you want when it's granted to you. A 190 is state nominated, where the state gives you 5 bonus points and you're signing a declaration. It's still residency. You still get everything, health, schooling, healthcare, etc. But you sign a declaration that states you're happy to live and work in that sponsoring state for 2 years. The new visa that came out just before COVID, it came out in November 2019. It's a subclass 491. And as you can see from this page, you get 15 bonus points for it. So you can be sponsored by a state on a 491 or a family member on a 491. But if it's a family member, frankly, I wouldn't use a family member to sponsor me into Australia. They're a low priority selection. They could take years and years and years for you to be selected if you're using a family member. So try and steer away from that. I will give you your options as and when I advise you, clearly when I see your documentation. Ben, I just put it into the question section, please. Thank you, Marilise. So a 491, you get 15 bonus points. It's a different type of visa. The other visas are issued to you. You've got a 5-year window to be living in Australia on a 189 and a 190. But if you're not going to immigrate in the first 12 months of your visa being granted, which is incidentally backdated to the date you did your medicals, so be careful. So don't do the medicals until we tell you to. But then if you're not going to live there in the first year on a 189 to 190, you've got to validate it, which means you have to enter Australia. And that would mean everybody on that specific application would need to enter Australia to validate the visa. Now, clearly you don't have to do that if you're going to immigrate in the first year. You can just go and start and live and work, okay? On a 491, it's slightly different because you're granted a visa valid for 5 years. So you're still going to have to get there in the first year. But on a 491, it's a regional visa. And you still get free schooling and healthcare, but you will not be able to apply for residency without the caveat until you have lived and worked for 3 years. Or excuse me, the main applicant has lived and worked for 3 years anywhere in Australia, earning a minimum of $53,900. I'm not sure whether that's gone up. I must check that. I think it's the same. Earning $53,900. The money's easy. You're going to easily be earning that. But for the first 3 years, you cannot live or work in Sydney, Brisbane, or Melbourne on a 491. So be careful of that, okay? So don't just think on a 491 you can go and live in Sydney. You can't, all right? Because if you do, when you come to applying for your residency 3 years later, or for them to take the caveat off your visa, they won't grant it to you. In fact, they'll deport you because you're in breach of your visa, okay? So Australia processing, it's very hard to speculate on Australia at the moment. The states have started to open. Queensland, I believe, opened on Monday, but the other states, South Australia, for example, have received their allocation, but they haven't actually opened yet. So they should open. They should open for lodgements in the next, few days, or hopefully next week or two. But clearly, the clients that are on my books already for Australia, I think, Ruan, I'm not sure whether we sent out that email we discussed on Monday. I'm sure we did. But state nominations are starting to happen. So if you believe you're on a state or your specific occupations on a state, I will clearly tell you if you're not a client, if it is or potentially is. And if you are a current client, just please drop me an email on it, just to bring us, just to remind me to not so much jog memory. We know you're in the system, but we're just working on so many job offers for New Zealand at the moment. I've designated this week to be handling essential things like work visas, visitors visas, visas that have become essential. It's only a week. It's only till Friday. We've pulled in the resources of all our file managers and our teams. And I must admit, I'm so proud of what they've achieved this week. We're just knocking these things over quickly, which brings me to New Zealand. Oh, by the way, so what happens when you're selected for Australia? Liz, are you able to tell me whether Peter's online or not, by the way? Sorry. Or Peter, are you able to tell me where you're online? Because I didn't see whether you were. My apologies, guys. I'm screwing. But anyway, so once you're selected for Australia and you submit the actual main application to the Department of Home Affairs, pre-COVID, the process was taking roughly 9 to 12 months when you were selected, okay? So you're looking at Australian applications taking at least 1 to 2 years for you to have your final visa in your pocket and be able to travel. We will have more information on that soon, and hopefully when October, if the states do open. But bottom line, if you start the process now, you're probably looking at having your visa towards Christmas next year. Okay, those timeframes might change, especially if Australia does decide to speed up the applications, but it is what it is. So, which brings me to New Zealand. Okay, land of the long white cloud, Aotearoa. Peter, Peter, I'm still not sure whether you're there. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to go through down here because I'm not at the bottom of the question. Oh, hi, Peter. Good. Sorry, my mate. Peter, I'm going to invite you in now. Peter Lemmer is our New Zealand manager, GM, and one of my good close friends and an outstanding job search trainer. So, oh God, Peter, I've done it wrong again. No, done it wrong. Hold on, Peter. Inviting you. My apologies, guys. Technology and me. Okay. So Peter's going to chat about the all-essential job offer and how we as an organization have spent a lot of time and resources on making sure that you guys have the best job training in the world. And I'm not pulling any punches here. We get clients coming to us from other agencies using Peter and Michelle for job search training. Good morning to you, Peter. Thank you for getting up so early. Is it still 6 a.m. over there, or 26 minutes past 6?
Yeah, it is still early. Nothing's changed.
I know you can't wait for daylight saving to come back in, because then it'll at least be 7 o'clock or 7:30 by the time you're talking. But guys, listen, Peter and I have been business partners in New Zealand for 6 or 7 years now. Peter does run the New Zealand operation with his 2IC Michelle. Desiree is going to be joining him in New Zealand, hopefully in the next couple of months. So we're incredibly sad, Peter. We really, really are, to be losing Desiree to you over there. I promise you, we are devastated, but she's going to be such an asset to the New Zealand team. She really is. And so anyway, I just wanted you to talk, Peter, just normal 5-10 minutes on how the New Zealand job search training process actually works. So I'll leave it to you, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, welcome, everybody. And yeah, just to let you know that we want the only immigration company which provides all this type of training, where we spend hours and hours with you face-to-face over Skype or Zoom, and we physically from New Zealand do this training with yourselves. So what we do is that we work with you and we train you over a period of 2 or 3 months, where we go through a whole process of setting up your LinkedIn profile for you and teaching how to network and market yourself in the New Zealand market. It's quite a process. There's 4 pillars that we work on. The first pillar is that we search engine optimize your LinkedIn profile. The second pillar is in teaching you how to connect with people in New Zealand and how to start networking with people in New Zealand. There's 5 levels. People only connect normally at 1 or 2 levels, but there's actually 5 levels which we teach you. The third pillar is then how to market and brand yourself. And there's a certain trick to networking with people in New Zealand. The cultures are totally different, so you need to understand this difference. Then the fourth pillar we teach is how to hold a New Zealand interview and understanding the New Zealand culture. It's so different that you actually need to understand why you don't say certain things to Kiwis and how you approach them via LinkedIn and how to get them to talk to you. We're one of the only companies who really spend this time with our clients, assisting them in networking. We also got a very strong relationships with a number of recruiters in certain fields. And I just actually yesterday concluded a deal with a healthcare recruiter who works in the private healthcare sector, which is a much better sector than the DHBs. And they're looking for any role in the healthcare sector. So I just commented to one of the questions there. Yes, please send your CV, because any healthcare roles, from psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, you name it, right down through theatre nurses. They're looking for immense amounts of nurses. Connect. And we what we do in part of our training also is that we introduce you to these recruiters. So you immediately have access to recruiters who are serious about hiring migrants. We've got agreements with them. We send you the CVs to them. And they say to us immediately, yes, we can help this client of yours, or no, we can't. So we know exactly where we stand with them at least. So we do this training separately. If you want to just test the market and you just want to do the training itself, the job search training, we charge $1,200 for that process. And then if you sign up with our visa services, that gets offset against the visa fees later. Any client who signs up fully with us, the job search training is a free add-on service for our clients. So yeah, it's an amazing journey. It's a stressful journey. We teach you about the stress of immigration. We also give you relocation advice. So before you leave for the country, we have a meeting with you to check that you've done everything correctly. And then when you land, we meet with you as well to make sure that you're settling in correctly. And I don't know of any other immigration agent who goes to the effort to assist their clients through this whole process, from even relocation advice, even meeting with you onshore to help you. So yeah, Andrew, thanks.
Well, yeah, Peter, I just touching on that before you go. You know, there's some good agencies out there, ladies and gentlemen. There is. You know, don't get me wrong. There's agencies that have different business models. We've decided that our business model is a one-stop shop, and we have spent tremendous amounts of time, effort, and financial resources in our processes, especially the essential part of finding a job. And you know, cost-wise, we're pretty average to what most companies are charging, but there are one or two companies that are probably a little bit less than us as well. But you know, I suppose it's like shopping. You know, if you want the bare minimum, then get it done with a company that's going to do the bare minimum. You know, maybe do your visa work. That's all. We take this process of your life extremely seriously, and we are. I'm sorry, Peter. I'm going to blow your trumpet a bit, but you know, New Zealand opened its borders for general applications of people earning 85,000 plus. I'm being a bit general here, but as of March the 14th, and by the end of March, I mean, we fell off our chairs. I mean, we had about 45 job offers in 2 weeks. And then by the end of April, I think we were up to 76, Peter. By the end of May, we were up to 91, and we're now working on 125. So a good 70% of those job offers that are coming through, ladies and gentlemen, have come directly after the training, which literally starts in South Africa. It starts with Rose and Liz with CVs and LinkedIn profiles and whatever. And then you hand it over to Michelle, Peter, and Judy in New Zealand. And Michelle, especially, and Peter do the job search training. And, you know, what I was astounded about, especially as the borders have started opening, and especially since the borders have opened in the past, 16 days, is that we're getting 3 or 4 job offers a day. Now, some of those are not coming from us and our job search training. Some of them, of course, are coming off the street. But a good 70% are coming from the job search training that you and Michelle do, Peter. So, kudos, mate. Well done. And, we love working with you guys, and the support that you give the South African team is just outstanding. And we are getting those types of comments. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been unbelievably busy. But, we are coping really, really well. And, we're just very proud of what you in New Zealand do, Peter. And Peter was over here recently, so we were able to have a beer and a whiskey together, although I don't drink whiskey, he does. Peter was celebrating his father's 95th birthday, so it was lovely of him to come over and see him in the last couple of weeks. But he's now back home with the children and powering again. So thank you, mate. I mean, I'm sure you've got some consults coming up, so I'll say thank you very, very much to you, and I'll let you go. But thanks once again, Peter, and we'll chat in the morning.
Okay, Andrew. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Right, have a good morning. Have a good day. Ciao, bud. Bye. Okay, guys. So let's start with the slideshow, just so I can run through it with you a bit, and then of course I'll come to the questions. Evans, just on that one, you'd have to give me a lot more details, Evans. That I can't answer a question like that. A colleague of mine told me they didn't write the IELTS test exempted. I mean, if he's from Zambia, it doesn't make him exempt at all. Okay, unless he held a British passport, and then he possibly was exempt. Well, he would be exempt, but I'd need a lot more facts on that, Evans. I can't comment on something like that, mate, without knowing the facts. Sorry, bud. So let's just go into the slideshow and just sort of, start it again. So, and I'm going to jump with New Zealand, of course. Listen, I mean, I love my country. I was speaking to Marius earlier, and Marius, if you are listening, I'm not going to mention surnames of character. Marius has been lucky enough to obtain a job in Queenstown. In fact, he's obtained 3 jobs and counting, 2, one in Auckland, one in Queenstown, one in Australia. So good on you, Marius. Well done. But, he's leaning towards Queenstown, as I would be as well, because it's one of the most spectacularly beautiful spots in the world. It really is. But New Zealand itself is just incredibly beautiful. Again, all types of visas. We don't need to go through that. I just want to listen to this, please.
Where no New Zealanders are available for a job, employers can hire a skilled migrant worker using the Accredited Employer Work Visa, or AEWV. Before inviting a migrant to apply for an AEWV, employers must become accredited with Immigration New Zealand and complete a job check for the role they want to fill. This means migrant workers can have more confidence about the role they're coming to New Zealand for. To gain accreditation, an employer must be a genuine business in a good financial position and have no recent history of breaching employment or immigration law or business standards. The job check confirms that the job pays the market rate, and the terms and conditions of the contract comply with New Zealand's employment standards. Before applying for a job check, employers need to advertise most roles to prove there are no New Zealand citizens or residents available for the job. After an employer's job check has been approved, you will be sent an email containing a link and a job check token. This means you can access the online portal and apply for your visa. The application process is all done online, where you will fill in your details and upload supporting documentation. Immigration New Zealand will check if you meet the requirements for the AEWV and that you have the skills and experience the employer is seeking. Once you are employed, your employer must provide you with information to help you settle into life in New Zealand and give you time to complete Employment New Zealand's online modules on employment rights while you are at work. The AEWV is designed to ensure only good employers can hire migrant workers and helps prevent migrant exploitation. More information about the AEWV is on our website.
Okay, before I go to the next slide, I just need to spend a couple of minutes touching on this. Since the AEWV has come into effect on the 4th of July, and of course, the accreditation processes, in fact, Peter and his team in New Zealand have been helping companies become accredited, which is fantastic. We've done a couple of dozen of them. There's over 8,000 accredited employers at the moment. Okay, so there's a lot to approach. But what we've discovered since we started lodging applications is you better get it right. And when I say you better get it right, I'm not just talking about you as the candidate. I'm talking about the employer. So Ruan's just put in the chat room here, you would have seen it, that you know, we're going out there with a campaign in New Zealand. We're offering a free service to employers in New Zealand at the moment because, quite frankly, 80% of them are getting it wrong. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault at all. And I'm not even blaming INZ. I mean, you know, this is a new process. It's something that everybody's going to have a little bit of hit and miss on. And, you know, you learn by your mistakes. And it's not necessarily mistakes that are being made, bar the fact that the job offer might state something that your application doesn't have. Something simple, for example, let's just use a motor mechanic as an example. The job offer might say that a motor mechanic is required with a New Zealand qualifications level 4 or 5. And that was in the ad. And the candidate, for example, has a qualification, but when the job offer is submitted, because of the way the ad was worded, it would need to be submitted with a New Zealand Qualification Authority assessment. And if it's not, then INZ will just refuse it, just decline it. Now, we've had about 20 of our job check applications actually decline because of that. Simple, stupid little things that the employer's not realizing they need to do. Whereas you might be a motor mechanic with no qualifications, for example, and all the job would need to say is, skills required are either by work experience or qualification. Simple as that. And because a lot of the employers are getting it wrong, we're going to do a campaign in New Zealand over the next couple of weeks offering free service to our employers. They're going to be able to log onto our website and see exactly what in a lot more detail. And we'll use examples, of course, of what we're explaining or what we're trying to help them do. Now, clearly, if they get it wrong, what it means is we can fix it, and we are fixing it, but it adds another 2 to 6 weeks to the entire process. And if an employer wants you, they want you as soon as possible. And if, of course, the job check's wrong for whatever reason, they've got to re-advertise the job. They've got to re-advertise it for 14 days. Then they've got to apply for another job token, which, of course, costs the employer another $610. And then the candidate has to apply again. So it's literally a month of stalling the whole process. So please, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a job offer in New Zealand and you're not my client, I need to not only see the offer when you send it to me, but I need to see the ad, please. And I need the dates that the ad was run, that you applied for the job on Seek, Trade Me, Indeed, LinkedIn, whatever. I need those specifics. And it'll only take a month or two for everybody to get this right, including the employers, through hit and miss. And I know I'm not the only agency that's having these issues. Everybody is. A good colleague of mine, Chris. Everybody's having the same issues with these job checks. Okay, so just be careful. It's a new system. New systems always have a few glitches, but the most important thing is that we can marry up the job ad with your skill set and what the ad requires you have in your skill set. Get it? I'm pretty sure you do. I will start answering those questions, etc. Thank you, Liz. Right. Okay. Just take a photo of this, lady. I'm not going to go through it. Okay. Just take a photo of this. This is actually something that was put out by INZ. So it's, employee accreditation is step 1, job check is step 2, visa application process is step 3. Now, one thing I'm very pleased to say is INZ seems to be sticking within their advertised timeframes. Employer accreditation takes plus minus 2 weeks. Job check takes plus minus 2 weeks, and then visa application takes plus minus 3 weeks. So if you receive a job offer and then everything works properly from an accredited employer, remember it has to be an accredited employer of the offer, then you should be able to hop on a plane within 2 months from wherever you are in the world. Now, you might get an offer from a non-accredited employer. Does that mean you can't take the offer up? No, not necessarily. What it means is put me in touch with the employer or Peter, and we will talk the employer through the process of becoming accredited. Okay? So New Zealand immigration on the accreditation process, most of them they're approving. And Peter has full knowledge on the accreditation process from employers' perspective. So, of course, the team. But Peter's in your time zone if you're in New Zealand and you're a company watching this. Okay? So just send me an email. I can send you all of this information, but just take a screenshot of that. Thanks. Okay. That's the green list. So what I'm going to do, the green list is coming into effect on the 23rd of September. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm right. The green list has 2 tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. Now, if you're not on green list tier 1 or tier 2, please don't panic. It doesn't mean you can't get in. It just means you won't be using the green list to get in. On green list tier 1, there are 76 odd occupations. So if you are a chemical engineer under here, chemical engineering, and clearly you're working your field, you're on green list tier 1, providing you have the necessary qualifications that immigration is requiring as a chemical engineer. Okay? So keep that in mind. Green list tier 2, here. Now, if you're on green list tier 1, INZ have told us that they're going to fast track your residency application. Well, excuse me, it couldn't come from INZ. It came from the Minister of Immigration before he resigned, Christopher Foy. But David, gosh, I can't remember his name now. Yeah. I've got a mental block on his name. Anyway, Michael Wood, I think. Yes, Michael Wood. Forgive me, Michael, if you're listening. I'm sure you're not. But anyway, the new processing of green list tier 1, hopefully we'll know before the 23rd of September how fast they're going to do it. But if you're on tier 1, you're going to be fast-tracked. Now, fast track will mean probably somewhere between 6 to 12 months. And I'm saying probably because we just don't know. Okay? But green list tier 2, if you're on this, you get residency in 2 years. Okay? So you get in, your work on accredited employer's work visa is valid for 3 years. Okay? And when you get a work visa as the main applicant, if you're in a relationship, clearly your spouse gets a work visa. okay? And your children either get student visas or visitors visas, depending on the ages of your children. And that's why I need to know the ages of your children when you email me, please. And so I need to know the structures of your family. So green list tier 1, you're going to get residency. They're going to fast track it. They've told us they're going to fast track it. They just haven't told us how fast. But 30 odd years experience, I'm thinking 6 to 12 months. Green list tier 2, they've told us is 2 years. So you can, your green list tier 2, for example, you're a diesel motor mechanic, you're on your work visa for 3 years, 2 years later you can lodge residency and it's processed. Okay. Now, if you're not on the green list, tier 1 or 2, you're going to be using the skilled migrant points test category to get in. This one, okay, which is being relaunched in September. And this is going to be based on points. And at the moment, we don't have confirmed confirmation of how long on an SMC, skilled migrant category application for residency, will take. Their website's stating 4 years, which is frankly ridiculous, because that would mean that you'd have to lodge a work visa again after 3 years, and they can't keep that. They can't keep that. It's absolutely ludicrous. And if there is a government change next year, there's no way they'll keep that. But the point is, at the moment, you know, I mean, for example, they advertised on the website to visitors visas were going to take 5 months, and then they've changed that now to processing some of them within, 5 days, some of them within, 4 weeks, and some of them within 7 weeks type of stuff. So it'll be updated and it'll change. But if you're going in on points test, I hope you've already taken a screenshot of this page. I'm going to come back to it in a second. But take a screenshot of this page and this page, please, because that's how you get the points. Okay. We're literally going to be finished at about 10, 15 minutes for you because we're getting quite late. It's nearly 9 o'clock at night here, and I normally finish around 9, but I am going to answer skip through those questions that you've got in the inbox. But what I need to do is show you salary levels. So I'm just going to skip through to this one. Okay. If you're going to New Zealand and you're going on any of the visas that I've talked about, green list tier 1, green list tier 2, or skilled migrant, you have to earn a minimum salary of $27.76 an hour, which is $57,748.80 a year. If you're not earning that, then you have to, if you're not earning that, then you're not going to get your visa. Simple as that. And that's on occupational codes between 1 and 3. ANSCO stands for the Australian New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupation. Australia and New Zealand uses the same ANSCO codes. So you have to have, you're not going to get into New Zealand. It's highly unlikely you'll get into New Zealand if you're an ANSCO 4 or 5. There are some exempt occupations in ANSCO skill levels 4s. So I can send you a list of those. But most of you will be required to have an occupational code of 1 to 3. As you can see here, you get bonus points for high income. And also, if you are receiving a high income, you will be fast-tracked to residency as well, but it will still take 2 years. Okay, I'm just double-checking with my colleague beside me. Okay, so Hussein, I can answer it. Please don't put questions in the chat room and put them in the Ask a Question section. There's not, so I can have a look at them properly at the end. Thanks, mate. Okay, so what's this part? Okay, we can come back to this one. So you get a job offer. Clearly, we will tell you, it's got to be with an accredited employer. And you're going to have potentially 3 pathways to residency. Green list tier 1, green list tier 2, or skilled migrant category. Okay, so let's come back to the skilled migrant category for a second. You can see here, as I mentioned earlier in the evening, your cutoff age is 56. Okay, you get your qualifications if you have them, 40, 50, or 70. Now you might say, "Well, gosh, hold on. I'm a construction foreman. I'm a builder, but I've been building for 20 years. I never bothered to get a degree or a trade. Does that mean I can't go?" No, it doesn't at all. A construction project manager, for example, is an occupational skill level 1. What that means is immigration will accept an application as long as you've got the job offer, of course, which meets the requirements, as long as you have 5 provable years as a construction project manager. You don't need a qualification, okay? If it's an ANSCO skill level 2 or 3 or 4, you only need 3 years to deem you self-skilled, okay? So if you're not qualified, it doesn't mean you can't go. It means that that you'll be assessed based on your work experience. So clearly, your work experience documentation is essential. It's essential anyway, even if you are qualified. But if you're not qualified, it's very, very essential that we get that work experience documentation right. Okay. There are your points, of course, for partners offer. Oh, let's talk about, sorry, I'm just going to zip over to this page. Oh, back to this page again. Offer of employment. This is why we have spent so much time, effort, and resources and money and finances into Peter and his team in New Zealand, into making sure our job search process is, in my opinion, all right, the best in the world. Why? Because you get 50 points if you get a job in Auckland. When your spouse gets a job, he or she gets 20 points, and you get 30 points, extra points, if your job's outside of Auckland. So if the skill level mark is 160 and you're outside of Auckland working, you're already halfway there by just getting a job offer. So the job offer is critical. Well, it's critical anyway, but it's also critical if you're doing SMC. It's critical to this points tests, okay? You get bonus points for offers above. Ruan, please remind me to change this. It's supposed to be 115. Please, we'll just do it in the morning. It's so easy to change. I keep forgetting to tell you. The bonus points for for high income, twice the median wage. You get bonus points if the job offers in an area of absolute skills shortage. You get bonus points if, of course, you've got work experience in an area of absolute skills shortage, etc. There are your points for work experience here: 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 years. Bonus points if you've worked in New Zealand for 12 months. The qualifications we've already done. If you're qualified with a New Zealand qualification, you get points. I already mentioned when your partner gets a job offer, if it meets the requirements, you can claim 20 points. If your partner has a qualification, you can claim 10, which is accessible. If it's a master's or a doctorate, you can claim 20, etc., etc. So to reach the points test, especially if you're clearly more mature, i.e. older, then it shouldn't be difficult to reach this point. You might be young. You might be 25, and it means you're only sitting on 120 points, no matter what you do. Well, it doesn't matter, because as you can see back here, working in New Zealand not only gives you extra 10 points, but every couple of years you work, you're going to claim extra points anyway. Okay? So keep that in mind, and this would be explained in detail, not only in an email that we send to you, but also in a consultation that you'd have with me. Okay? So let's just jump into all of these questions in the chat room. Okay, guys, I've been trying for a job in New Zealand for almost 2 weeks from South Africa, but all recruiters are informing me that I need to have a work visa for me to be considered. Okay, Bino, this is the same problem that we've had with clients for 30 years. Okay, accredited employers should understand in fact, accredited employers will understand the process. So please just contact me, Bino, because that's the sort of answer or questions that we have all the time. Okay, might be worth your while to apply for a visitor's visa, Bino. You can now and fly into New Zealand, but again, you have to apply for visitors visas under the right circumstances. Oh, well, there we are, Bino. Thank you very much. Peter's already answered that particular comment because it was on jobs. What is the up-to-date regarding partner work visas for being on the chopping block from December? Alaric, that is, again, thank you for that question. It is one of the most ridiculous rules that INZ, or excuse me, previous Minister of Immigration, brought in. It doesn't make any sense at all. And he was actually challenged on that in Parliament. And do you know what he said? He said, well, at least they can come. Wow, give me a break. I mean, can they come? Yeah, but what are they going to do? Sit at home and knit? Or sit at home and mow the lawns, for God's sake? We're hoping this changes by December. But if it doesn't, you are 100% right. It means that the spouse of the main applicant will have to qualify for the work visa in his or her own right. And I can guarantee you, if they don't change it by December, it'll be chucked out next year, at the end of next year, if and when the government changes. So, and I'm being blunt here, guys. I know you're all listening to me. I'm not insulting immigration. I'm not trying to. I just think it's a ridiculous rule, okay? And pretty much everybody in the world does as well, okay? Thank you, Peter, for that. Marilise, do you perhaps have clarity on the potential rule change or kind of part? Yeah, I think that's what we just talked about, Marilise. Yeah, if the partner's earning twice the median income, Des, it still won't make a difference, will it? If this rule stays in the same, it won't. No, Marilise, it won't make a difference, even if you're earning twice the median income. But Marilise, as I've already stated, it's a really ridiculous rule. It makes no sense. So hopefully it's changed very soon. Okay. If one is in the process of searching for work, when do you recommend we secure police clearance certificates and do the medical? Marlies, again, I would do the police clearances now, upfront. Why? Because they're cheap. I mean, whatever country you're in, they don't cost a lot. Because it's one thing the employers are going to ask for. Are you job ready? Are you application ready? And what we do is we get our clients ready before we actually hand you over to the job search training. So if you then get a job, yay, we're ready to submit, because then we'll ask you for the medicals. And the medicals are quite expensive and they're only valid 3 months. So we don't do the medicals 9 times out of 10 until you've actually got a job offer in your hand, okay? Then we get a question from, hi, when do you think the new Australian Scarce Skills sponsorship list will be published? There is no such thing as a Scarce Skills sponsorship list. It's just the wrong terminology. I'm not even sure who asked that question. The state lists are being published as we speak. As I said, Queensland opened on Monday. So please, whoever wrote that, I'm not sure who it is, please just drop me an email. Hi, Liz, are there any roles in occupational health and safety management? So again, TISA, please just send an email to myself, Andrew at networkmigration.com, or jobsearch@networkmigration.com. It's a specific question. Yes, there are. New Zealand unemployment is 2.8%. Shall I run that by you again? 2.8%. No wonder they're screaming for skills. Australia, I believe, is around 3 or 4%. Still, they're screaming for skills. These countries are screaming for skills. Most countries are screaming for skills because of COVID, not just New Zealand and Australia. So yeah, there are pretty positions in most occupations, Tisha. Narisha, how long is an ELTS valid for? Depends on the country, Tisha, but 2 years for New Zealand. 2 years. 3 years sometimes, 2 years.
It depends on the skills assessment.
Yeah, it depends. Minimum 2 years though, Narisha. Sometimes it's valid for 3, but 2 to 3 years. Can I have the presentation? Yes, of course you can. Madavusi. Ruan will be sending everybody, all the 269 people listening to me now, will be sending all of those people to their emails, the full presentation tomorrow morning. Okay. Gosh, Salisha, I just saw that question. Absolutely. Chemical engineers, no problem. So just again, send us your CV, please, Salisha. In regards to evidence of past work experience, Marilise, we should have a phone conversation tomorrow because we can answer all these questions you've asked for. Can you clarify whether detailed reference letters and evidence of paid employment is required under? Yeah, absolutely it is. Marilise, you still require all that information. You've got to prove you're capable of doing the job. So you're going to require detailed reference letters and evidence of paid employment. Nope. Under the AEWV, absolutely you will. When do you expect the skilled migrants residency visa details to be clarified? Again, Marilise, your question. Thank you. And thank you, Marilise, because you did point out to everybody else to put it into the chat room. So thank you for that. By mid-September, 23rd at the latest, Marilise, but by mid-September, I'm hoping we have all those details. What are the options if we're not COVID vaccinated? Well, Australia, you don't need to be, but Peter has already answered. Thank you, Peter, that if you're not COVID vaccinated at the moment, you won't get into New Zealand. But again, Peter's more pointed out that we hope that changes very soon if Jacinda starts thinking to change it. How long does it take to change a visa from a 400 to a 482? You're going to have to give me specific details on that one, please, Sandy, because there are different ways to change from a 482 to 400, 482. I need more specific, Sandy, so please drop me an email. Thank you, Peter. You've already answered that. Thank you for the service, Peter. You've really helped me tonight. Thank you very much, mate. Again, Jonathan, my wife is a teacher and started the whole process. If I get a job and we go on my visa, can we still change over to her visa when she gets a job offer? Absolutely. We do that a lot, Jonathan. Sometimes you might be the main applicant for the work visa and use your spouse as the main, or your wife as the main applicant for the residency visa. There's no problem with that at all. So no problem at all with that one. Hi, Andrew. Hubby and I have previously done an assessment with you. Can we redo it, revisit it? Absolutely, Simone, Simone, Miles, Miss Miles. Absolutely, you can. Just drop me an email tomorrow and I'll give you the updated processes. Thank you very much. If I don't have a degree but only have a diploma, I may qualify to relocate to New Zealand with ELTS certificate of 5. Emery, you don't need ELTS to get into New Zealand up front. Depends on the occupation sometimes, but you don't need ELTS mostly to get in I'm a medical technologist. No, you wouldn't need ELTS as a medical technologist to get into New Zealand. And And can I try something else just to survive? Probably not. Just email Emery. You probably already have, but just follow it through with an email tomorrow. If you're a qualified motor mechanic, and I use this as an example, and you go over to New Zealand to become a restaurant manager, they won't allow it. Why? Because you never managed a restaurant in your life. So would you approve it? No. So you've got to get a job related to your skill set. Your skill set either by way of your qualification or your work experience. Okay. My second question, Emery, if I get a visitor's visa to enter New Zealand, the country, can I change my state? Absolutely you can, Emery. As long as when you apply for your visitor's visa, you are explaining to immigration the reason you're entering New Zealand is also to look for work. So as long as you're transparent when you do that, and clearly that's what we do for you, then you got no problems with that. Just on that case, quite a few agencies have different levels of what they do for you. We do everything. We'll do your visitor's visa. We'll do your registration if you're an electrician or a teacher, or we do your NZQAs for you. We're not going to just send you links and say, okay, there's the link to it, do it yourself, and then come back to us. Okay? I'm not putting companies down that do that. Companies do that. We don't. We do it all. Okay? So if you're an electrician, we get you registered. If you're a teacher, we get you registered. If you need a qualification, we get you NZQA, we get you registered. Okay? So that's why I said earlier we're the one-stop shop. I don't necessarily, as I said, I'm not putting these other companies down, but always try and understand what you're paying for. What services are you being offered by the particular company that you're using? Okay, Peter, do you have any recruiters that work on the agricultural space? Absolutely. Chichi, please send your CV to either me or jobsearch@networkmigration.com. We had an agricultural recruiter which helps agricultural people. I think it was about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, that we did a webinar with them. So please send us your CV. Do you have recruiters who specialize in projects? Absolutely, we do, Maralise. Peter will put you in touch with them. Hi, Andrew. Do the NCQA have influence on the time frame for getting your work visa? George, yeah, because if you haven't done it and the job offer requires the NZQA, we're going to need to do the NZQA as part of the job check process and the submission process. So it could stall it for 1 to 2 months if you don't already have done the NZQA. Yes, we've talked about the presentation. You will be getting it tomorrow. What is the process times of skilled migrant visa after applications? Is it 3 weeks? Pretty much, Nicola. Pretty much 3 weeks. We're getting most of our applications that are that we've lodged and with no problems approved in 3 weeks. Also, if you lodge the visa as a group, will all outcomes come at once? Yep. Most of the time. Most of the time, Nicola. Most of the time. Sometimes it's different, but most of the time, yes. Yes, you can have the presentation tomorrow. Yes, it's recorded. Is there any reason why they backdated the 12-month entry expiry date according to medical examination? I don't make the rules, Leanne. It's something that I must have, it's always baffled me. But if it's Australia specifically talking about, then all we say is don't do your medical until the Australian Department of Immigration requests it. So don't do the medicals up front if you're going to Australia, okay? And in fact, if you're going to New Zealand and you don't have a job offer yet, don't do the medicals either. Hi, Andrew. Is education management and higher education on the green list tier 2? I don't have time. Sorry, Tisa. I don't have time to look at that now. Are there any roles in education management, higher education? Please, Tisa, just drop me an email on that. Can you enter Australia before the visa expiry date to activate your visa and then return to that? Yes, of course you can, Leanne. No problem with that. Again, depending on the visa subclass, but on the 189 and 190, once you validate it, you'll have the balance. You've got a total of 5 years to be living there on those visas. Do I need a qualification of a sponsorship from an Australian company? That would depend. Again, I don't know who this is. That would depend on what the job offer is. So please drop me an email. Can you assist with student visas and which universities are recommended? Absolutely, we can, Jack. No problem at all. Just drop us an email again. And please specify the country you're looking at. What if you apply when your IELTS is valid, but it expires while waiting the 2 years for a response? Once you've lodged the application, your English test will actually maintain its validity. So don't worry about that, Narisha, once you've submitted. How is the skills shortage across various areas affecting the service delivery to people in New Zealand? Too few doctors, resulting in long waiting times. Gunther, you are absolutely hit a nail on the head there, mate. This is why we cannot understand some of the decisions that comes out of New Zealand Labor, the government currently in power. But yeah, there's a massive skill shortage across the board. And they just made, for example, doctors green list tier 1, but they didn't make nurses. They put them on tier 2. Well, that's ridiculous. No disrespect to the doctors that are listening, but nurses and doctors are essential as each other. So why wouldn't they make nurses green list tier 1? Again, we don't make the decisions. Hi, there doesn't seem to be any demand for FMCG sector supply chain coordinator, maintenance controller, planner. Jacques, that's not true. There is. Please drop me an email on it. But let's just touch on this. Pre-COVID, everybody flew to New Zealand to get a job. When I say everybody, 95 people out of 100. Post-March this year, there's been a tremendous amount of job offers, as I've already said, getting jobs without going. But if you're in an area which is a little bit suspect and, it's not, you're not walking into jobs, then get a visitor's visa, go and get a job when you're on shore. We had 240 people fly to New Zealand in 2019. There's no COVID. 3 failed. Everyone else got a job. Okay? So just drop me an email on that. Does an MBA hold any weight when applying for jobs in Australia? Houston, it would depend on the job offer. How long do you have to find the job offer? Doing a postgraduate diploma, is it better, more straightforward? Listen, Tisa, you're going to have to email me, Tisa. I need more information. I need to know what you're studying, etc. So you're going to have to drop me an email, Tisa. Peter, Michelle, Vanitha. Hi, Vanitha. You deleted it. Anyway, hi, Vanitha. If I'm currently working for an Australian company from South Africa and they're willing to give me sponsorship to relocate to a needed qualification, again, I'm not sure who that is. But you would need to send me the details. I need the details on that to be able to answer you accurately. Right, guys, that's it. And I've run about 6 minutes late. So just before I go, let me just touch on this. We've done all that. We've done that. As I said, we're the one-stop shop. I am blessed and have been blessed for the many, many years of the people I've worked with in the last 29 years to have 9 times out of 10 an outstanding team of people. And the group that we currently have that are in the process of becoming licensed, and also the new team that have come on board in the last a month or so, I'm really, really proud of what we do. We take tremendous care on what we do because this is your life we're talking about. And sincerely, whatever agency you decide to use, just please make sure you understand what you're paying for, you understand what you're going to get for the services that you're paying for, and they're transparent with you and contactable. I pride myself on our abilities to stay in touch with our clients, whatever. Yes, we might be running a little bit behind with emails at the moment, but I've never worked on 125 job offers in a week, and we are knocking those over by the end of this week. So. When I say behind on emails, it might not be, a 3-day response, but on the job offer, it's going to be a lot quicker. But my point is, we need to get the facts, and we will certainly be responding to you. We have certain structures that we do in the way we respond. So we'll clearly, as we touch base with you, we will run you through those processes and details. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are using us, I'm really proud to be working with you, and I hope you feel the same way. For those of you who aren't, or potentially looking for an advisor, if it is us you intend to employ, we clearly look forward to working with you and your family to make your dreams come true of relocation to another country. And if you're going to use another company, as Peter's already mentioned, and you just want to use your job search training, we can do that. And if you are just wanting advice, we're really, really happy to give that to you. So I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. I really appreciate all of you logging on and listening to me chat about immigration, and I hope you've got the facts that you needed so far. But if you haven't, you already know who to email. Thank you, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Once again, thank you, Ruan. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Peter. Thank you to my team for always being there to support me and our clients. So I'm logging off, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, have a fantastic evening or morning wherever you are. Stay safe wherever you